I mentioned previously that one of the names that has had a big impact on post-structuralist theory is, of course, Jacques Derrida and his philosophy of deconstruction. And I'm going to spend a little time on discussing deconstruction, because deconstruction is one of the tools by which we can analyze international political economy, not simply to criticize, but also to rethink alternative futures. So deconstruction is, very simply put, a practice of close reading that seeks to locate the erased and the silenced into text. So it's a practice of close reading where we read not simply what is said and what the discourse is, but we read it in order to understand what are the binary oppositions that are left outside, what are the constitutive outsides that need to be silenced in order for this text to make sense. And we can look at any possible economic discourse with these tools and of deconstruction. In this practice of close reading, deconstruction, we pay attention to the silenced sides of binary oppositions, that which is not said or written, and that which is outright written out from the text, that which is erased from the text in order for the text to make sense. For instance, let's return to the previous example. For instance, in order for the sentence, public care must be opened for market competition because people want freedom of choice. In order for that sentence to make sense, we completely need to write out those subjects who are incapable of making choices. So deconstruction searches for constitutive outsides, and it is really ethical practice. And here I want to kind of probe and give the idea that perhaps post-structuralist approaches to international political economy can also provide us some tools to rethink more ethical futures. Deconstruction, for instance, can be understood as an ethical practice that perceives more just world orders as openings and tensions within text and paradoxes in political orders that struggle within the political economy, where the economy seeks to domesticate the political. That struggle itself can be understood as an ethical opening for potentially better futures. The aim is not to reach a place where everything is absolutely beautiful and perfect. The aim is to understand that no order is complete. There will always be somebody left out, somebody whose needs are not attended to, somebody whose conceptions of the economy are not, and the political, and whose needs are not understood and whose needs are silenced. And post-structuralist political economy then always seeks to hear these others, even when it is impossible. So post-structuralist international political economy does not necessarily aim at complete orders and perfect orders. It is a practice of critique that always takes us one step closer to the more ethical order. Or this is my comprehension anyway. And then I need to remind, because often, very often, and all too often, the term deconstruction is understood as something that destroys the order, that it only critiques and it never provides any workable answers, and it's only, what's the point of just critiquing, just dismantling? No. Deconstruction is not to destroy. The aim of deconstruction is to work with existing dichotomies, to undo and to displace them, and eventually to situate them differently. And this is Jonathan Culler in his book on Deconstruction, Theory and Criticism After Structuralism from 1998. So the point is not really that if we have, a dichotomy masculine-feminine, The point is not that, okay, let's just turn this dichotomy the other way around so that the feminine is always more valuable than the masculine. No, that is not the point of deconstruction. The point is to work with this dichotomy, to undo the hierarchy in a way that both the terms can be on equal way, or come up with something completely different that includes both these terms as well as that which lies between. And that's not destroying, that's reconfiguring. And if we take that to the field of political economy, the post-structuralist aim would be to reconfigure the political economy in ways that the predominant dichotomies are undone and displaced a little bit, so that the order can be reconfigured in much more inclusive ways. So the aim, and I cite Jonathan Culler again, the aim would be to reinstate the hierarchical relationship with a reversal that gives the order a different status and impact. And this is not about destroying, it is about the double move of deconstruction, which leads towards equality, justice, and again, because no order is complete, new moves of deconstruction. Because once we, of course, we dismantle and undo and displace one dichotomy, but of course that dichotomy, the new order and term that emerges, then that relates to the existing system of meaning making in new ways. And again, new dichotomies would emerge, and then we would work with them. True meanings of texts may be never found because discourses are always exclusive, but nevertheless, we need to continue reading the world in a way that seeks to hear that which is written out from the order. And this is particularly important in the field of political economy and in analysis of political economy. So this is another provocative statement that you would often hear from the audience, or when you talk about post-structuralist approaches or deconstruction. So people might say, so post-structuralist thinking, is it only about language and it's about the immaterial world? And how can it ever say anything constructive about concrete material conditions of the political economy? Yeah, very common criticism against post-structuralism, and it's understandable because a lot of the work, when you work with discourses, a lot of the work kind of take place on the textual level. At the same time, in some ways, this is a little bit of nonsense because the textual level, the text has always its material dimensions. The texts of the world are not just immaterial writings. And this kind of criticism doesn't actually really understand what the term text stands for in post-structuralist thinking. Derrida has argued that there is nothing outside the text. He talks about archaic writing or generalized writing, which refers to a general system to which spoken language has always belonged to. He argues that everything in this world is ordered by chains of signifiers and systems of meanings which defer absolute definitions. And he talks about, and the central term in his philosophy is difference, that which both differs in meaning and differs presence. So that's which kind of haunts the the constitutive outside that needs to be written out for the text to make sense. Very simplistically put, Derrida's philosophy is somewhat complex, but and I obviously cannot capture it in the course of this lecture. But it is also something that once you get the grasp of it, you can never escape the philosophy again. But as it said, in all realities, there is always an alternative reality which is written out or made absent by the reality that is present. And now we need to understand that the reality that is present, our comprehension of the reality and how it's ordered, it's not only about text in the sort of way that understood that you find in books or write in letters and so on. The whole world is kind of organized according to these similar principles, so to speak. Vicki Kirby, for instance, a feminist scholar, has written, and I quote, I say when I start the quote and end it. So when writing is understood in its most general sense, even, and I quote, the most elementary processes of the living cell are a writing and one whose system is never closed, end of quote. In the general sense of writing, also nature scribbles and flesh reads, argues Vicki Kirby in her book Telling Flesh, the Substance of the Corporeal. So in Derrida's sense of archaic writing and the text, it's not only about language, or language itself and the discourses. They are not immaterial, they have material dimensions. And this is something that brings post-structuralist IPE also sort of a material basis. And you might actually find often say new materialist. There is a sort of a newer approach to international political economy, which could be coined as new materialist approaches to international political economy. And sometimes it is understood as a critique of post-structuralism, but actually you might also understand that it's building upon post-structuralist understanding, kind of emphasizing the ways in which the text is not that the text is about general order of the world rather than only about the kind of writing that we would find in letters and in our sentences.